How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Opinion. And we just got through watching one of the greatest robberies in boxing, but it didn't come down to the judges when it was a robbery. This came down to the referee. And I'm talking about Tony Weeks in the fight between Rolly Romero and Ismael Barrios or Barrosos. Ismael Barrosos. Ismael Barrosos was up on the cards, just to give you guys the quick snapshot of this, because really the story of this fight is Tony Weeks stopping it early. I don't think I've ever seen as bad of a stoppage as what we saw tonight whenever Tony Weeks stopped the fight and Ismael Barrosos really wasn't even hurt. Or actually, he stopped the fight and Barrosos was the one in the exchanges actually landing the more dominant punches. And so in this fight, Ismael Barrosos was actually up on the cards. I believe it was round 9 or round 10. I believe we were in round 9. Ismael Barrosos was actually up on the cards. He had already knocked Rolly Romero down. He was headed towards victory. Now, I don't know if that fight would have actually made it to the 12th round the way both of those guys were throwing punches. It could have been 50-50 at that point. It would have just depended on who would have landed the solid punch to basically put the other one to sleep. But that's neither here nor there, because later on, Tony Weeks gave Rolly Romero a knockdown on the score. But Rolly Romero pushed Ismael Barrosos down, and Tony Weeks gave it a knockdown. So you have to ask the question, did Tony Weeks possibly bet on this fight? Did somebody buy a ticket out there for Tony Weeks in Vegas that said that basically said that Rolly was going to win by a knockout or by a stoppage, and Tony Weeks can cash in on it? Now, obviously, Tony Weeks isn't going to he's not going to buy the ticket himself, but did somebody buy a ticket for him with the intention of cashing it in, and then maybe giving him the cash on the back end? I'm only asking questions because when you look at the way this fight was stopped, this has got to be one of the worst stoppages, if not the worst stoppage of all time. And we've seen Tony Weeks let guys, get bloodied. We've seen Tony Weeks let guys just throw in the past. And I know things are not quite like they were in the past, but you have to ask the question, what was going through Tony Weeks' mind? Did he have a bad angle? He also refused to talk to Showtime, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission refused to talk as well. So did Tony Weeks have a bad angle? Was he not able to see? I mean, I can't really think of, even if he did have a bad angle, both fighters were throwing punches. It's not like Barrosos was just taking punches and not responsive. They were both throwing punches, and then Barrosos actually landed 2 solid shots on Rolly and really didn't get hit, and then all of a sudden the fight gets stopped. So this has got to be the worst stoppage that I have ever seen in boxing. If anybody can come up with one that's even worse, let me know. Post the link of that video below as well. And also, what do you think? Because to me, in this fight, Rolly Romero, I expected more out of him. He was starting to pick up his pace there at the end, but I expected more out of him. And based on the scorecards, he was fixing to get beat. He was down on all 3 cards. Was down on 1 point on one scorecard, 3 points, and then like 4 or 5 points on another scorecard on the official judge's scorecard. So Rolly Romero, he is a 140-pound champion, but he's got something to prove to really back up that he's actually a champion. Because if this old guy, this 40-year-old guy that had power, can basically push you to the brink where Tony Weeks basically had to save you, what are the other 140-pounders going to do? I mean, he's trying to call out Ryan Garcia and basically some other fighters at 140, and this guy will get his clock clean if he cannot take on this 140-pound guy who, like Rolly said, he can crack. He has power. I will give him that. But at the end of the day, Rolly Romero, this will always be known as the fight where Rolly Romero was saved by Tony Weeks, and it is what it is. Tony Weeks gave him this particular fight, and I don't know if Tony Weeks shouldn't be suspended. Now, they may not suspend him because Tony Weeks refused to speak, and the head of the Nevada State Athletic Commission refused to speak to Showtime. This warrants a suspension by Tony Weeks. Some type of suspension. There's got to be some type of suspension, some type of reprimand for Tony Weeks. Maybe he misses a couple of fights that he was supposed to, work and get paid for, something. Because There's no reason that this fight should have been stopped, especially when there was a belt on the line. No reason at all. This belt was now given to Rolly Romero. He didn't quite earn it. He scored a knockdown, but like I said, to me, that knockdown was more of a push than it was a knockdown. And Tony Weeks gave him that as well. So Tony Weeks was clearly biased. There was something that was influencing him, in my opinion. I don't have necessarily hard facts on that. It's just my opinion. That's why this show is called The Opinion. But I think Tony Weeks was influenced by something, because for him to not want to speak and basically give his side of it tells you he knows he's guilty, looking up and seeing those replays and things like that, because Tony Weeks was actually still in the ring as the fight ended. Of course, he has to be, because the referee has to raise the hand of the winner and everything as well. So what do you guys think about this fight? Where would you guys rank this fight in terms of it being stopped early? Because we've seen some early stoppages that we don't disagree with, but I think that this one's got to be the worst of all. And I think even the Showtime announcers said just as much. So, what do you guys think about Rolly? Where does Rolly go from here? He still has just the one loss to Tank on his record, but essentially he does get to move on. And then, quite frankly, boxing needs a guy like Rolly. Boxing could not afford for a guy like Rolly to lose, because he does have a mouth. He can sell a fight, because they could not afford for him to lose this fight as well. So I want to throw that extra part in there just to make you guys think. So where does Rolly go from here? Do you guys think Rolly is a serious contender at the 140? I mean, he has a belt. I will give him that. But outside of that, do you guys think Rolly is a serious fight for someone to make? Or I guess what I'm saying, do you guys think Rolly is a serious champion at 140, not a contender? Do you think he's a serious champion? And what do you think should happen to Tony Weeks? And what do you think influenced Tony Weeks' decision to stop that fight early? So all of those things are going to be answered, but leave your opinion down below. Make sure you subscribe, because I will. If you're a boxing fan, make sure, because I'm going to be talking about Lomachenko Haney. We got that coming up, ESPN pay-per-view next week. I'm going to be giving you the breakdown of who I think is going to win. But until next time, I'm out.